So I've been running a software company for about the past 3.5 years. Online business, built it myself from zero, and it's been quite a journey. And I've been recording every day for the past year, a little over a year, recording daily videos and uploading them. And I've been thinking a lot about purpose and actually writing a company manifesto. Like, this comes from the fundamental belief that great purpose drives great business. Great passion, great purpose breeds great business. I think this is starting to be more and more the case. I don't know the exact study, but I know that like the numbers line up on this. I have to look into the proper sources, but this comes from a guy who I spoke to who runs a consulting company, and his clients are like billionaires. He's just a very interesting guy, runs this boutique purpose consultancy. And he basically says purpose-driven companies make more money and more profit than companies which aren't purpose-driven. As a big belief, I think most companies serve the world one way or another, unless you're doing like, I don't know, like selling drugs or running casinos or doing some arguably more questionable stuff. I think most companies serve the world, even if it doesn't seem like it. Like, you could claim that fossil fuels destroy the planet, but the companies that do that are still providing electricity to literally millions and billions of people. Like, most companies, one way or another, do serve the world. And I think right now especially, people are paying more attention to the work that they're doing, why they're doing it. There's this big trend which is like, quit the 9 to 5, go do your own thing. And I think, yes, people will crave more freedom and more control over their lives. But I think beyond just that, it's not that just being an entrepreneur suddenly became cool. It's that people crave meaningful and worthwhile work. Because just sitting at your desk and feeling like a tiny cog in a massive machine, it's pointless. And you don't see why you're doing it. And so you're like, what's the point? And if you look at kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I don't know it by heart, but I think it's like physiological needs, safety needs. I was looking this up earlier, and then it's like, it's love, and then it's self-esteem, so kind of having self-respect, and then it's self-actualization, so trying to be the best version of yourself. And right now, society has done pretty well to cover most of the bottom of that triangle. And so, like, in general, most jobs cover your shelter, food, and safety needs for the most part in a lot of especially developed economies. And so if most jobs cover that, then people are starting to move to the next need, which is self-respect, self-esteem. Like, I want to be working on something that I respect myself for. I want to, like, I can have this job or this job. They both pay me enough to eat, be safe, and, have loved ones and stuff. And so the next barrier becomes, I want something that makes me feel meaningful. And people need purpose. I'm working on this for my company because a manifesto that writes out exactly why we do what we do, why we exist, is, I think, how you capture not just the minds of people, but the minds and the hearts. And I think that's how you really move mountains as a company, as an organization, as a group of people. I run a software company, okay? And we're moving toward a more niche service, which is what we need to do. And like, in order to kind of break off to the next level. And so we need to get very specific about selling a service. And right now that is very much moving toward AI content automations, because that's actually what we started implementing internally for myself, because it's really helpful to have an AI content team, because with limited resources, we can get so much more done. And I think this is great. And in economic terms, I can tell you why it makes sense. But when you zoom out, sometimes it might feel like, you're just doing this thing and it feels like a just make more money thing. But the reality is, no, there's more to it. And to be able to put that into words and explain why you do what you do, why your employees are doing what they're doing, how it all fits together, to be able to paint that picture, I think is something that will be able to make your work more worthwhile. And I think like that will get more out of everybody on the team, including yourself as a leader of the company. At least I feel that's the case for me. I work a lot, but I would be so much, I think it brings me more excitement to be able to articulate why we do it and what we believe in. And I think also that it will be more the case for our employees as well. Like, they will appreciate it more and be more excited about the mission, more excited about the work. I think it's a massive trend that people are, for the most part, not acknowledging, maybe. Like, it's not being put into words a lot of the time. It's not about people wanting to start businesses. It's about people wanting to work on something that has a mission. Like, what's the point of me doing this slideshow? Or what's the point of me putting together this automation? Like, why am I doing this? Because the money and whatever, eventually it gets old. Like, to just work for money, eventually you get tired of it most of the time. Like, unless you're kind of like a broken record and you just keep going around, most people eventually get enough of it. I think if you want to build something really big, you just work on it for a really long time. And so that begs the question, how do you make something worth working on for a really fucking long time? And I think that is where this purpose idea comes in, this manifesto thing that I'm trying to work on. I'm very excited about it because I think it serves that side of the business, which you could make an argument that in the day-to-day doesn't have an immediate effect, but I think it compounds in the long run because it gives you a much stronger sense of identity, and like you are much more grounded as a company. If you ever have big decisions about the direction that you want to take, you go back to that and it's like, okay, this is the core set of beliefs of why I do this and why I'm here. And so I want to operate based on this. And if you need to change that, that's fine. But like it gives you something to go back to. Because I think if your purpose in the world is just to make money, you will eventually get tired of that. And this is a long game. Like you got like 10, 20, 30, 50 years ahead of you. So what are you going to do for the rest of it? Because it'll get really boring. I don't know, like you just make money, like buy hookers and cocaine and gamble it all the way. Like it'll get really boring. And I think successful people who have gotten a bunch of money, basically, like they look for more meaningful work. That's why you get a lot of philanthropy and things like that. It's like people look for that. And so I don't know, I think setting it from the start will yield compounding returns because you can get a tribe of people who really believe in what you do if you're able to articulate it. Otherwise, when you don't communicate it well, how can people know? Even if that purpose may be somewhere in there, kind of why you run the business. And now I get like most people start with the basic needs, which is like, I don't like this job. This job makes me feel like I have no purpose. So I'm going to try and build something of my own. And then the goal becomes, okay, I need this thing that I'm building on my own to actually make enough money for me to live on. But in the long run, eventually, you will also ask yourself, like actually, I was meeting with some entrepreneurs on Saturday. They were saying, well, one of them basically he runs this Airbnb management company. And he basically said like he's moving away from that business because he wants to work on something more worthwhile. And it was the same thing. It was like he felt like his needs were mostly met in terms of like initially the goal of that business was to just make money to get him out of his 9-to-5, off that kind of corporate wheel. And he did that. And then he realized, fuck, okay, well, I did that. So what's next? And now he's working on some other business that he finds more meaning and potential in. I think people need a narrative and a reason. And if you're able to define that, I don't know, I think you can go really, really far. Purpose-driven companies make more money and more revenue, more profit than non-purpose-driven companies. This is from this guy who's a consultant friend of mine, and his clients are billionaires and just ridiculously cool people. I'm not massively close to him, but I have had a handful of chats. And that's one of the things that he pointed out and said. And it's like, I thought that was a really interesting comment. Now, I don't have the sources on this, so maybe I am wrong here. But I think better purpose breeds better business in the long run. We've met a lot of our needs. And so now we have to be really particular about like not just doing things for the sake of greed and more and more and more. Because otherwise you get on the hedonic treadmill or whatever. It's basically like, it's just, you want a bigger box to live in and a faster car to drive. Eventually it gets old. Like it really does. And so what are you going to do that's worthwhile? And I think most companies are eventually going to start to face this question too. It's just a matter of time because like, okay, we've met those base needs of like safety, love and food and shelter and that kind of thing. So the next thing we start asking is what's the reason, right? And I think that's a massive opportunity for a lot of small companies too, because small companies are more nimble. And I think corporates are pretty bad at setting this kind of purpose stuff. Small companies are much better at it. So yeah, anyway, feel free to comment any questions below. I will answer as many as possible. As usual, I'm going to call it a day.